Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422. At Citizen TV Kenya, Anat Ayub Abdikadir. On my far right is Dr. Ekuru Aukot, the Third Way Alliance party leader. Also chaired the committee of experts.
I was actually the CEO.
The CEO. The process that led to the process of the birth of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Good morning.
Morning.
Lovely, Daktari. Abukar Abdirahman is political economist based in Washington, D.C. in the United States of America. Good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely having you on the broadcast as well. Jared Okello is the representative of the people of Nyando constituency at the National Assembly. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Ayub.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, and as I told you, my late dad was called Ayub, so I treat you with the same respect.
The universal name.
Yes. Well, not quite.
Yeah.
Few hold it, and the ones that I've known who have held it sit very highly at my heart.
Okay, including me.
Yes.
The reason.
That's why when you call me to come to Citizen, I report much earlier than anybody else.
You know, the reason Honorable Gerald has been absent. He's been busy in the blood-based or broad-based? Broad-based. He's been busy fixing things. I hope he'll tell us more about it this morning.
Yeah, let's begin on that note. And the Standard on the front page says, asks whether this is a selfish union between the president and the former prime minister. Says, in the name of the broad-based government, the president and the former prime minister sealed a pact that blurred the opposition into irrelevance. What was meant to be a counterweight to the executive fiat has morphed into an alliance that silences dissent and shields scandals. Odinga wants a symbol of accountability and democracy, now plays cheerleader to the president's excesses in a deal that smacks of opportunism. Kenyans have been left with a government without restraint 1 year later, and this was in the aftermath of the Gen Z-led demonstrations in July last year, August, following the changes that were made to cabinet by the president, and which this year, early in March, led to the birth of the broad-based union. First, beginning with you, Dr. Ekuru Aukot. In terms of the moral high ground, seems that whilst Odinga has remained the constant factor of the political equation, President Ruto, like Kenyatta, his former boss, is the variable. And what he termed as mongrel today is a government that he leads.
So I think, first of all, I'm just hoping that this is a learning curve for Kenyans. That now we can see the long political con game of the people who have masqueraded or projected themselves as leaders of the opposition, champions of democracy, and now fraternizing with an obviously failing government that Kenyans generally agree lied to them in 2022, gave a lot of political promises and all that. But then again, you know, Ayub, I'm not so surprised because these people come a long way. Political leadership in Kenya is actually a cartel, you know, and I'm hoping that Kenyans will now begin to move away from the same names for a long time, because when you critically or deconstruct these personalities, you actually do not see any transformational thing that they may have done apart from just claiming that they have championed certain things. In fact, a lot of these folks, what they do is they buy these newspapers. They don't even read the headline these days. They go to the obituary page and look at who has died where and whether that funeral is worth attending or not. And then, of course, they'll mobilize around their tribes and all. Their business is politics. And that's why you can see even in the Daily Nation headline, you know, we should be worried as parents that 123,000 missing grade 9 students. You know, as a parent in this country, I should be more concerned about education rather than this fraternizing. This union has killed what was the hope of Kenyans, that we can have actually an opposition that can oversight government, that can legislate, can do pro-people legislation, and represent. As a matter of fact, because of this union, the legislature, where my good brother Gerald sits, is now an extension of the executive. And that's why you can see the bad laws, the housing levy laws, the SHA and all those. Nobody's oversighting government. And yes, I agree with the Standard completely. This is just a marriage of convenience. It's a very selfish union. It does not have Kenyans on the radar.
And Abukar, from your view, in a constitutional democracy like Kenya, how is such a consensus democracy, the coming together of the two, the president and the former prime minister, border on what was never anticipated by our dispensation?
Thanks, Brother Ayub. Generally, the way democracy is supposed to work is we have to have an opposition to hold the government accountable. And that's the way it's supposed to work. So, much as I appreciate that the Prime Minister thought, he was trying to calm things down and bring peace to the nation, it does not serve Kenyans well. Because governments are governments. They are likely to, overstep, their role. They are likely to err. They are likely to not perform well. Like my brother Ekuru mentioned, with all respect to my brother Jared, the legislature doesn't do us a great job in terms of holding the executive accountable. For the most part, a lot of time they are an extension of the executive. So that doesn't help us very well. So when the opposition joins the government, then we are left, at our own peril, because there's nobody to hold the government accountable. It's the role of the opposition to ensure that, the government of the day fulfills the promises it made to the people by, making sure that we have responsible debates in Parliament, by holding them accountable, by raising all the issues, one by one along the way, making sure that, they're in the public domain. We hold them accountable. So to the extent that, the opposition has really merged into the government, it doesn't serve us well.
Okay.
And it doesn't work. In most other democracies, that doesn't work. It doesn't work that way.
Okay. And Jared, what's your view, given that your party came to provide what in many ways was defended as the provision of that much-needed stabilizer in government at the height of the thunderbolt from the Kenyan youth?
Well, thank you. Let me begin by looking at the Standard headline. Give it to them. They have been very consistent in fighting the government. Not constructive criticism, but fighting the government. Whether it is because the owner of the Standard Group, who was a former senator from Baringo, who was shoved by the wayside by President Ruto when he got into office, and the former KANU being a shell right now, being led by the owner of Standard Group, may have had a lot of issues with the president, and therefore the only platform he has now that he's out of the Senate is to hit hard the government. And they have been consistent to the effect that there is right here that the pact between Honorable Raila Odinga and President Ruto, that pact has blurred the opposition to the effect that no one knows whether opposition exists or whether their voices really have meaning. But interestingly, on the same note, they have a caption of Kalonzo Musyoka, giving him prominence on the headlines. So you wonder whether the blurry status of the opposition still holds water when they still have to give Kalonzo Musyoka such degree of prominence. But coming back to your question, the overall state of the nation is that we are turning the corner. That is a matter of fact. Depending on who would want to see it. But the dark clouds that we had before are beginning to scatter. But you have the opposition, which the Standard also confirms that their voices don't really matter in our current political arrangement, that will never acknowledge that this country is making some gigantic steps towards progress. And I will qualify my statement, Ayub.
By the provision of examples?
Right.
Okay.
By provision of examples, yes, I will do that. And they do all this hoping that the government will fall. Even the Standard newspaper here, when we talk about patriotism as a nation, and the owner of the Standard Group, let me come back to him, he's a former senator. And every leader must have the interest of the nation at heart. And when people castigate government, I acknowledge that it is the work of the opposition to castigate government. But we also have to remember that you have a country to protect. Without that country, and we almost, came to the precipice on June 25th last year, if the country fell then we would not even have a country to castigate. So even as we criticize, it should be objective, it should be targeted, and it should be provision of alternatives that move our country to the next step. Now, let me come back as you were asking.
So what is in 1, 2, 3, 4?
I would like to see
Right.
some
And-
examples.
Yeah, that is what I'm coming to.
Okay.
Number
The
one,
gigantic.
Yes.
Number one, we have attained political stability since coming together between ODM and UDA. And that is something, no one can really...
How do you qualify that stability aspect of your statement?
By saying that the only disruption we have had this year was the Sabasaba on the 7th of July this year, which was also, thwarted by the security agencies in good time. But remember also that 10 years of President Kibaki and 10 years of Uhuru Kenyatta, no one commemorated Sabasaba. Why are they doing it now? Because the presidency is in the hands of a wrong tribe.
But before we go there, Honorable Jared, I mean, to speak about your issue, allow me to then ask you this. If you are talking about stability in the context of the absence of demonstrations or protests, you, the opposition, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition, in the aftermath of the elections, had staged in 2023 every 2 days a week, the cost of living demonstrations. Would you qualify that as instability at the time you were not in government?
We have to juxtapose two things here. The quest for purity in our politics, and that also includes the economic stability, the cost of living that we really agitated for, and the general political stability of a nation. We had an agenda. You remember, immediately President Ruto came into office, all the subsidies that existed in the past regime, particularly on fuel, were removed on day one by President Ruto. The resultant consequences was that the prices of all essential items went up, and the country was literally bleeding. And therefore, it behoved us then, as the opposition, to ask difficult questions to the government so that the cost of living, many Kenyans who hitherto couldn't afford essentials, were having a voice through us. And we did that. We staged peaceful demonstrations every Tuesday, every Thursday. At one point, we wanted to do it the whole week so that the government could bulge and the prices of essential items could come down. So we did that then. We saw lots of changes here and there. But the climax of the Gajano steps that I was talking about took center stage upon the pact between Honorable Raila Odinga and let me qualify.
We'll come to the specifics because something major happened in the aftermath of the coming together, and we'll be very specific on some of the itemized issues. Yes, Dr. Your hand was up.
I wanted to say this. If Honorable Gerald, my good friend, was to be very honest, he doesn't need to give us an academic argument here. Let's be practical. Today, and he knows it, even from Nyando, people send him messages. Mheshimiwa nitumie 200 shillings, hospital bill, education bill, and many, many other things. That cannot be a gigantic step that we have made. Yes, it could be a gigantic step, but that's so depressing Kenyans. So coming to the political union, to me, honestly speaking, and I think if Honorable Gerald, and I assume he goes to church or goes to a mosque or to a temple, he should be very honest with Kenyans. It is a betrayal of the 6.8 million Kenyans who actually wanted Raila Amolo Odinga to be the president of the Republic of Kenya. Ruto won. Now they expected that representation of the 6.8 million will be able to call this government to account. Honorable Gerald here is lying by saying that the prices of commodities have gone down. No. Mheshimiwa, you know that. Even when you shop for your people in Nyando, even in your own household, you know very well that actually the prices of commodities have not gone down. The ordinary Kenyan, because if you look at the narrative, Ayub, of Amamboga, the wheelbarrow guy, Mutua Mjengo, this will be your government. Those are the people who are suffering the most. And even for us, perhaps who have good means, who work, now we have to budget actually. I mean, there are times we used to pay, our school fees in just one check. medical covers. Today, ask insurance companies, they even stagger insurances. Medical covers are being staggered. So let's be, you see, one of the things that if we have to really address the state of our nation today, can we at least be honest? Can we at least be honest in our conversation about how do we take this country to the... When Gerald says that we have made some gigantic steps, let's go back to 2024 on the finance bill. Kenyans invoked Article 37 of the Constitution on peaceful demonstrations. It is the same government that was disrupting people. Instead of giving people security to be able to demonstrate. I mean, my brother Abukaria will tell you, in the White House in America, there is a permanent demonstration. You were there. You saw it yourself. Placards, permanent. Nobody disrupts them. It is their right. But then you have got this president under this union who gives an order to say, don't shoot to kill them, shoot them in the leg. Then you have got a minister called Murkomen who say, shoot them and kill them. I mean, what kind of gigantic steps have we made when Kenyans say that this 2010 constitution actually was replacing the independence constitution where Kenyans did not participate, they did not negotiate, did not give their views. I went around this country, and I'm sure so did Abukar and Gerald, to solicit for views on what kind of governance do we want. We do not want the kind of governance where we betray our democratic principles. Raila Odinga and Gerald here, together with their party, have actually betrayed many Kenyans because for the longest time, they played that card of we are the symbol of democracy. And there was nothing absolutely wrong with Sabasaba. Remember, Sabasaba is very significant in our political history in this country. They themselves used to lead those demonstrations because we wanted multi-party democracy at the time. Okay. But we are now betraying that achievement of multi-party democracy. We are silencing the voices. So that's why I'm surprised, actually, when I hear my brother Gerald and many others speak the way they speak. I mean, I wonder, are they in this country? Okay,
Abukar, what is the net effect of such a coming together, especially in the context of Kenya, where institutions that are born out of our constitutional dispensation hold up under enormous pressure in terms of undertaking their operations?
I think it's a sad scenario for the country because, much as I said earlier, there may be a good intention in terms of trying to, calm the country, but the net effect for our country is tragic, because the institutions that are supposed to hold the government accountable are not working. Everybody is towing to the executive. So take, for example, this corruption issue. It's a rampant thing across the country. I attend a lot of international conferences on fraud. And the thing that really bothers me most is invariably Kenya is the topmost example that's being used for corruption index. The example that everybody uses is Kenya. That is a sad scenario. Is EACC doing its job, holding accountable? I come from Mandera County, for example. From the inception of devolution to date, Mandera has received about over 170 billion in revenue. With a spell of any dry season, 70 to 80% of the villages in Mandera can't find water, much less clean. Water is the most basic human need. With 170 billion, you cannot find water in Mandera. I'll give you another example, just to paint the picture of my county. And that can probably be said of most of our northern counties and a lot of others. Others. Mandera is one of the most poorest county in Kenya. Out of the 47, it's probably the second last or the last. It has the most expensive election campaign of any county in Kenya. Now juxtapose those two things. The most poorest county in the country with the highest election cost in the country. I'm a fraud examiner. I know what that means. I know when I see one. So you wonder, we have, with the 2010 Constitution, we have established independent bodies that are supposed to do their job. Hold those counties, the government, the national government accountable, making sure, are they really doing their jobs? Okay.
For example, if you look at the Auditor General report, Abukar.
Yes, we will come to also the control of budget, but allow me to also pick on Jared. Jared, yes.
Yes. Ayub, we were in this country when President Ruto took over.
Yeah.
And the price of unga was 210 shillings. That is undisputable. Today, he's getting it at 100 shillings. My brother here, Honorable Ekuru Aukot, look at the variance, look at that difference. And then, yet he's here claiming that there is nothing that has been done. Look at the price of rice, the price of beans from the time Ruto took over.
And we are still importing rice. There's a window period opened by the Minister of Agriculture to meet our demand.
Well, you know, ugali, which is maize flour, and rice are our essentials. We do not produce enough into our country, and I sit in the Agriculture Committee, so I'm privy to a lot of this information. We only target, Nyando, where I come from, West Kano rice scheme, and Mwea. And the consumption of rice in our country far much exceeds our local production. So what happens at that stage? You have then to import from outside, because people would still need rice, especially when you guys go to the mosque. I see that your main staple food is rice. So that production, which is not in tandem with our local consumption, has to be cushioned by the exports. But you remember again, when the Minister of Treasury and Economic Planning, Honorable Mbadi, did issue that memo on importation of rice, a court of law reduced it from 500,000 metric tons to 250,000 metric tons. I do not know where they got the statistical data to determine half of what was hitherto planned by Treasury. But those are just a few based on essentials. You are aware that about 2 weeks ago, S&P Morgan, the Standard and Poor's composite index economic rating, moved Kenya from B- to B. And this is not a Kenyan company. These are internationally recognized rating organizations. They moved Kenya's rating in terms of economic betterment, in terms of its access to loans and repayment schedules, from a B- to B. So we are on the right trajectory. And this is not said by Kenyans. If it came from the Raila Odinga or President Ruto, then people would quickly discard that. Moody's, again, same company that does a rating, moved Kenya to a positive, from a negative to a positive. At a time when the former President Gachagua was in the US castigating Kenya's government, not bad-mouthing our country, that is the time that all these organizations based in America were rating Kenya so highly on that. So if we say that things are looking better, we are not saying we are at the stage where we would want our country to be, but there is a progression. You look at Chan, for example, that Kenya was hosting the other day. The most successful Chan, and this was a statement made by the Chan president, Mr. Mosepe, from South Africa, the most successful Chan. During that period, two things happened. One, we created 42 new millionaires. And I know they will be asking where President Ruto got that money, whether it was the government's
tell
money
us where the money came from.
or it was his own.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we created 42 new under 30 millionaires with housing that they were going to be given by the president. And number two,
that was subsidized, not the housing.
It has created a platform for our young people to showcase their talents and be sent out for trials abroad. Right away as we speak, there are two players from Kenya. Ogam, who is going to one of the Bundesliga teams in Austria.
In Germany, not Austria.
Yeah,
Germany.
In Germany. And then there is also Kibwagi, who is also going to Europe. So all these good things that have happened within a very short span of time, hosting Chan for the first time in our history, and then being branded the best out of the 8 years that we have had Chan. You know, the opposition will never talk about this because they are expecting the country to fall.
I have a burning issue.
Yeah, let him make his point and we go on a break. Because there are also other fundamental issues that were lined up by the president and the former prime minister, which were never met. I'll hold him to account.
I'll just say this very briefly. Mheshimiwa, you can reduce even the price of unga to 50 Kenya shillings. The bigger question is affordability. what is the state of the economy for people to be able to afford to buy that unga at 100 bob. Secondly, Ayub, and possibly can explore this after the break, you know, there's a very false narrative that's being perpetrated and created by my brother Gerald here and the opposition, that the country was at the brink of war and all that. No. Kenyans were only asking for accountability. So they create this false narrative that they want to stabilize Kenya. Who was fighting who? It was actually the state apparatus that were fighting innocent Kenyan demonstrators who are just asking for accountability, who are asking Weshimua here, pass better laws, legislate, oversight, represent us in government effectively. So then you create this narrative that Kenya was on the brink of war, on the precipice of war. That's a false narrative. Kenyans are peaceful and they are demonstrating peaceably. If you remember, for example, the Gen Zs, what were they armed with? A bottle of water, a phone, and a flag. And they were chanting, "We are peaceful." Who was shooting them? They never had any guns. We now know that this government, some of the politicians, sponsors goons to disrupt peaceful demonstrations. So, honestly, let's not create this false narrative, and we should not allow it. Are you certainly not in your show?
Yeah.
A lot of people watch your shows. And I think if we allow this false narrative that Kenya was in the brink of war, so you are fighting, no. Ordinary Kenyans were not fighting anybody. They were just invoking their inalienable rights, invoking their constitutional rights, but it is the government of the day, because it wants to hide behind their failures, and now roping in the opposition who've been lying to Kenyans for decades that we will call government into account. We wanted to form...
Ayub, I can't let this go unattended.
Gerald, hold on,
yes, allow him make his point.
Let me land. And you know...
I will forget.
You won't.
Write it down. You have a pen and a piece of paper. You know, and you see, if we are to talk about the state of the nation today, we also must look at the history. I think the wise man once said that to know where you are going, you must know where you came from. And you cannot betray that journey that you've traveled and now say, create this false narrative that, oh, Kenya was a, conflict. There's nothing. We should be talking about why Jubaland forces are occupying Mandera, half of Mandera. We should be talking about the state of education, SHA, those things that, in fact, there is a very interesting quote here about our former president, Kibaki, who talked about the most single important thing is the education, and that is an investment in a country. But look at the education today. When Honorable Gerald says that we have made gigantic stakes, can you talk about the state of education in the country? Economy, health, yeah? Even just our politics, the way people are now being mobilized around tribe. You can hear Mulembe Nation talking about this, Muhima talking about this.
We go on a break, Honorable Jared, come back and we will take it further. We still have some time to go through all this here on the State of the Nation. And we welcome your contributions. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdulkadir. Back with more after the break. Stay tuned.